Exactly, and is losing money. He's spending over 1.5 to $2 billion a year in the sport to bring these fights to Saudi that don't do the same pay-per-view numbers, obviously, because just no one cares.
That shit's at 3 in the morning, and no one's flying 17 hours to watch niggas.
Yeah, so they don't have fans. They have no gate revenue. He doesn't realize like how that him fighting me is actually what's better for the sport than him fighting William Scull in Saudi Arabia at 3 a.m.
Canelo versus Scull has already been under scrutiny since its announcement, but now, after the official timing reveal, the controversy has only intensified, sparking fiery reactions from fans and experts alike. Terrence Crawford recently questioned Canelo Alvarez's recent performances, suggesting that he hasn't been fully motivated in his past fights. While his bout with Berlanga was a clear domination without the need for extra effort. Against Charlo, he didn't have to push harder since Charlo was constantly moving, and Canelo comfortably won every round.
To get up for those fights that he's been getting up on. I think he held McGee up. I think he could have did more damage, but the respect that he had for McGee, he just, really too much didn't want to hurt the kid. I think with Berlanga, it was what it was. He showed a dominant performance against Berlanga, and he just felt like he didn't have to do too much of nothing, and so with Charlo was moving a lot.
However, Crawford believes things will be different when they face off. He insists that Canelo will have no choice but to rise to the occasion, especially with talks of the fight happening in front of 70,000 fans at Raiders Stadium.
But I think, with me, he's gonna be the best Canelo that we've seen yet.
At the same time, Crawford also sent a strong warning to Canelo, making it clear that he doesn't need a knockout to win. He explained that he's not entering the fight looking for a stoppage, but if the opportunity presents itself, he won't hesitate. Crawford pointed out that Canelo, despite moving up in weight, is still a smaller fighter compared to natural super middleweights. Crawford, coming from a smaller weight class, believes his speed and accuracy could be the key. He also emphasized that Canelo, like any other fighter, is human and can be hurt if caught with a well-timed shot.
I don't gotta stop him. I just gotta beat him. I'm not going in there looking to knock Canelo out. Could it happen? Yes, absolutely. When I look at Canelo, he's a smaller, bigger guy moving up in divisions. Being that these big guys are slower, so they might catch him with something, but he might see it at the last moment. They might catch him with a hard shot, but he's able to roll and turn with it. Because he's coming from a smaller weight class that was faster, that was sharper. I'm coming from a smaller weight class that's faster and sharper. So if he get hit with a sharp punch that he don't see, he's definitely capable of getting hurt. He's not a machine. He's human just like me. He bleeds just like me. So I'm not going in there thinking, oh, I can't hurt this guy.
However, not everyone is convinced that Crawford stands a real chance. Boxing legend Juan Manuel Marquez expressed doubts, arguing that weight divisions exist for a reason. He acknowledged Crawford's skills in lighter divisions, but pointed to his struggles against Madrimov as proof that moving up is a major challenge. According to Marquez, Crawford lacked power and looked slower at super welterweight, and now, moving up 2 more divisions, the task becomes even tougher.
Canelo Alvarez linked it with Terrence Crawford. They're probably going to get together in September. How do you see that fight going?
I don't like the fight because Terrence Crawford is a good fighter, but in the sport of boxing, it has divisions. What's I mean?
Right, weight classes.
Right? Yeah, weight classes
for a reason.
Weight classes and Terrence Crawford is a good fighter in super lightweight, welterweight, super welterweight, but I think more. I remember when Terrence Crawford fought with Madrimov.
Yes.
He looks slow. He looks with no power, and 3 more divisions. 2 more divisions. I think it's a top fight for Terrence Crawford. But Terrence Crawford is a great fighter. He has a great defense. He has a good combination of punches. But I think the weight class is no good for him.
Building on this, Marquez also shared his thoughts on Canelo's upcoming fight against William Scull before the potential Crawford showdown. He acknowledged Canelo's ambitions of becoming undisputed at 168 pounds once again, highlighting that Scull is a solid fighter. However, in his opinion, Canelo's experience and power will likely be too much for Scull to handle.
Canelo Alvarez getting ready to try to go undisputed again at 168 pounds versus William Scull before he fights the guy that was here tonight, Terrence Crawford. What do you think about Canelo Alvarez being undisputed for the second time?
Yeah, Canelo Alvarez is a good fighter. He's a good fighter. He defeats, he defends his titles for against William Scull. William Scull is a good fighter, but I think the experience, the power, Canelo has everything.
Even right after the Scull fight was confirmed, Marquez voiced concerns about the selection of Canelo's opponent. He openly questioned Scull's credibility, pointing out that despite holding the IBF title, he remains largely unknown in the boxing world. Many within the sport, according to Marquez, see Scull as an underwhelming choice, especially considering the previous discussions about Canelo potentially facing Jake Paul.
Easy fight.
Juan, tell me your opinion on Canelo versus William Scull. That just got official.
I don't know what's gonna happen, but William Scull is nobody. He's nobody in the sport of boxing.
It's for an IBF belt.
Yeah, it's the IBF champion, but you know William Scull? I don't know William Scull.
Adding to the controversy, Jake Paul recently discussed the situation in an interview with David Benavidez. He criticized Canelo for choosing to fight in Saudi Arabia for a massive paycheck, while according to him, turning his back on Mexican fans. Paul claimed that his fight with Canelo was nearly finalized, with agreements in place, but Turki Alalshik personally intervened to shut it down. He described how negotiations stretched over 2 months, only for the fight to be blocked at the last moment.
He's like throwing away the Mexican fans to go fight in Saudi for the paycheck.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happened. I can explain like the situation with me. Basically, everything was ready to go, 1 yard line, signed LOI and confidentiality agreement, but basically Turkey hates me, absolutely hates me. We heard through the back channels for multiple weeks because we've been negotiating since the Monday after the Tyson fight. So we were negotiating for 2 months straight.
That's a lot of time.
And the whole entire time, Turkey was doing everything in his power.
Not stopping there, Paul also went on to heavily criticize the Scull fight, calling it a meaningless bout compared to what was originally planned. He alleged that Turki Alalshik pressured Canelo's team to abandon the Paul fight, even going as far as threatening to cancel Canelo's 3-fight deal if he refused to comply. According to Paul, Canelo ultimately accepted the financial offer and decided to go through with the Scull fight despite the backlash.
To strip the fight, try to not make it happen, calling Canelo, calling Eddie Reynoso, basically saying, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? To the point where he had to threaten Canelo to pull his 3-fight deal. You're not fighting Crawford. I'm not paying you any of this money. And he's basically paying him over $100 million for this random ass fight in May. And Canelo at some point is like, okay, you bought me. Like, I'm not going to fight this kid.
Shifting the conversation to David Benavidez, Paul admitted that he also felt bad about nearly getting the Canelo fight, while Benavidez, a much more deserving opponent, was overlooked. He expressed that it didn't feel right and acknowledged that Benavidez had done more to earn a fight with Canelo.
I actually felt bad that Canelo was gonna fight me and not you.
Yeah, I thought that. I was like,
and
damn,
I was like, this is fucked up. Like, I'm sorry, David.
Benavidez, in his response, didn't hold back. He accused Canelo of avoiding him despite a massive fan demand for their fight. He argued that if Canelo truly considered himself the best, he would take on all challengers, especially someone like Benavidez, who has been openly calling him out. According to Benavidez, a fight between them would generate huge pay-per-view sales and be a great moment for boxing, making Canelo's decision to avoid it all the more frustrating.
Like,
honestly, what I thought about that, bro, like I'm saying, Canelo, that's why I feel like Mexicans, bro, if you're a true Mexican, if you see somebody talking shit to you and they're at the same level, you go and get that. And especially with how lucrative this fight is, you know, it makes sense on every on every level. It will sell a lot of pay-per-views. It'd be good for the sport. It'd be good for the fans. So that's why I know he's 100% scared of me.
yeah.
Because I'm over here talking shit, and I know I could beat him, But if he was so confident in himself, he'd come fucking shut me up. And make a large sum of money too. So
looking at the bigger picture, many in the boxing world agree that a fight with Benavidez would have been far more exciting than the one against William Scull. Unlike Benavidez, who has proven himself against elite opponents, Scull has remained under the radar, with even top fighters like Dimitri Bivol admitting they've never seen him fight. In a recent interview, when asked for his prediction on the Canelo Scull fight, Bivol bluntly stated that he had no idea who Scull was, further fueling doubts about the matchup.
All eyes will be on Las Vegas in the fall, in autumn, against Terence Crawford. What do you, when you first heard about that fight, the idea of it, what was your reaction?
First reaction, of course, it was about size of Crawford. Is it okay for him to move up for 2 weight classes? Yeah.
Oscar De La Hoya also added his voice to the criticism, questioning why Canelo chose to fight Scull instead of taking on bigger names like Benavidez or Crawford. According to De La Hoya, Canelo is reaching the final stages of his career, and fans want to see him in legacy-defining fights. He argued that avoiding major challenges could damage Canelo's long-term reputation, making it crucial for him to take the biggest fights available before retiring.
What are you doing? You know, that's all I do all night, is scratch my head. Canelo, what are you doing? Look, people want to see the big fights. They want to see the big fights. They want to see Benavidez. That's it. They want to see, you know, to a certain extent, they want to see Crawford. Canelo, the big mega events. So, especially towards the end of your career. Yeah. I mean, this is the 4th quarter of Canelo's career, so might as well give us the big fights. But look, it's his career, it's his choices. 10, 15 years from now, are we gonna say you ducked Benavidez or you gave us a great fight with Benavidez? That's the question.
Meanwhile, Canelo dismissed De La Hoya's remarks, asserting that his legacy is already established and cannot be diminished by anyone's opinions. According to Canelo, his achievements in the sport speak for themselves, and he refuses to let outside pressure dictate his career choices. He remains focused on his current path, confident that his place in boxing history is secure.
I spoke to Oscar De La Hoya the other day. He said he believes if you don't face David Benavidez, your legacy will be tainted forever. Just your reaction to that?
No, I don't think so. My legacy is my legacy. Nobody can take away my legacy from me.
William Scull, the man set to face Canelo, also remains confident and determined. He insists that he is well prepared and ready to prove himself on fight night. According to Scull, he has trained with discipline and dedication, fully aware of the magnitude of the challenge ahead. Representing Cuba, he sees this as his opportunity to make a statement and assures fans that he will give his absolute best come May 3rd.
I feel really good right now, actually. I rely on my fundamentals, and I have prepared really well in a very dignified way for this fight. And all I want is to be ready for May 3rd and give the fans a great fight, which is what they deserve.
While all the attention is on a potential Canelo versus Crawford super fight, William Scull has made it clear that he feels overlooked. Speaking to Ring Magazine, he called it disrespectful that fans and the media are already discussing Canelo's next move before their fight even happens. In his eyes, this lack of recognition is unfair, especially considering the challenge he brings.
There's a lot of talk about a potential fight with Canelo and Terence Crawford. Do you feel disrespected and overlooked that people are just focusing on that fight and said, Scull doesn't have a chance?
La verdad que no, es feo que me subestime, ¿no? Que uno ha logrado ser campeón mundial hoy, que es lo que somos a través de ganando todas las peleas que se me han puesto. Pero bueno, siempre me he salido adelante bajo las dificultades de las personas que me subestiman.
Despite all the speculation, Canelo Alvarez remains focused on the present. Even with the ongoing talks about a showdown with Terence Crawford in September, he insists that his only concern right now is William Scull. According to him, staying active is crucial and any discussions about future fights can wait. For now, his mindset is locked on May 3rd.
Hello, everyone knows a potential showdown with Terence Crawford awaits in September. He decided not to have a fight until then, but you said you were going to fight in May. Why take the risk?
No, I like to be active. I like to be active, and I don't take, we don't have a fight till September. We have this fight, and then we will see the September fight. But I'm focused 100%
William Scull.
Acknowledging the task ahead, Canelo understands that Scull's Cuban boxing style presents a unique challenge. He admits that defensive, technical fighters can be tricky, but he remains confident in his strategy. His goal is clear: apply pressure, break Scull down, and avoid letting the fight go the full 12 rounds.
Sounds with you.
You know, it's gonna be difficult because his style, you know, the Cuban style is a little bit complicated, but like always, I'm gonna try my best, and I'm gonna be in the ring and like boxing is, you know, hurt your opponent as much you can, and I'm gonna do it that made true.
Adding to the conversation, Oscar De La Hoya also praised Scull's Cuban skills. While he admitted to not knowing much about Scull, he acknowledged that Cuban fighters typically possess strong movement and fundamentals, which could pose difficulties for Canelo. In his view, this fight might not be as easy as many assume.
I seriously cannot say anything about it. I don't know who Scull is. I do not know who Scull, and I'm a boxing guy. I swear, I'm not just saying this because it's Canelo and I don't like Canelo. I'm saying this because I do not know who Scull is. I've never seen him fight. So all I know is that he's Cuban. And when I hear Cuban, you better be careful because he's going to have a lot of movement. He's going to have a lot of footwork. And that gives Canelo trouble. Anybody who moves like Erilandi Lara, everybody who moves like Floyd Mayweather, who goes side to side boxing Canelo, who's on his quicksand feet, is going to beat him. So will it be a good fight? Who knows? Because I don't know Scull, but I think Scull, just being a Cuban, is going to give him difficulties because he boxes.
Beyond predictions and analysis, a new development surrounding the fight has sparked even more discussion. Ring Magazine has officially confirmed the start times for Canelo Alvarez versus William Scull, with a main event set for an unusual 6 a.m. slot in Riyadh. UK fans will have to tune in at 4 a.m., while New York viewers can catch the action at 11 p.m., and Los Angeles fans get a more convenient 8 p.m. start time. As expected, the announcement did not sit well with fans. Many took to social media to express frustration over the early morning schedule. One fan questioned, "Man, so they gotta pull an all-nighter just to fight at 6 a.m. Or are they really gonna get some sleep, wake up at 2 a.m., eat breakfast, then head to the arena?" Definitely want to see the behind the scenes on this. Another reacted to the UK timing, saying 4 a.m. in the UK. Yeah, I'll skip. Even Riyadh is pretty bad. You're good if you're in LA. One fan pointed out the impact on the atmosphere, stating 6 a.m. in Riyadh. I'm not one to complain about atmosphere, but this will be ridiculous at 6 a.m. Another simply called it absurd, writing, "Imagine going to a boxing fight at 6 a.m. This is a joke." And it's not just fans who are upset. Boxing figures have also voiced their criticism. One of the loudest has been Jake Paul, who was already at odds with Canelo over being passed up for a fight. Even before the official timing was revealed, he took shots at Canelo, claiming that Saudi Arabia's odd fight hours don't generate real fan engagement. According to him, these events struggle with pay-per-view numbers and live gate revenue, making them unsustainable in the long run.
He hates me because I'm the one doing the bigger numbers, etc. So he's paying Canelo over $100 million just not to fight me.
That's crazy.
But yeah, it's like fucked up in the sport. And we know boxing is a dirty sport, so this is where these things happen. It's part of the game, you know.
Rival against you, and they stole the fight from under you.
Yo, exactly. And is losing money. He's spending over $1.5 to $2 billion a year in the sport to bring these fights to Saudi that don't do the same pay-per-view numbers, obviously, because just no one cares.
That shit's at 3 in the morning and no one's flying 17 hours to watch.
Yeah, so they don't have fans. They have no gate revenue. So he's literally like flushing money down the drain to make these fights happen. And basically,
doubling down on his criticism, Jake Paul again blasted Canelo for choosing to fight Scull instead of him. In his opinion, a fight between them would have been far better for boxing, drawing a larger audience. He accused Canelo of prioritizing money over meaningful matchups, arguing that this fight does nothing to push the sport forward.
He doesn't realize like how that him fighting me is actually what's better for the sport than him fighting William Scull in Saudi Arabia at 3 a.m.
However, Canelo has made it clear that he stands by his decision to fight against Scull over Jake. He explained that partnering with Turki Alalshik felt like the right move for his career, aligning with his long-term goals and opening new opportunities. As for Jake Paul, he dismissed the idea of fighting influencers at this stage, stating that such fights can wait until after he secures his legacy.
I think in being when with Turka Lashi, I did the correct thing. That's what I feel. That's the way I feel. I think is there so much potential in the future. So that's why we choose to be working with him, because it's better for me. At this point in my career, I just wanna continue making history. You know, that fight I don't even call it like a fight. It's like an event more like a fight, right? Like a fight. That event can wait till I retire.
And this isn't the first time Canelo has addressed the topic. Speaking on the Full Send podcast in 2023, he had already made it clear that he isn't against crossover fights, but only once he steps away from elite level competition. According to him, these matchups can help bring new fans to the sport, but right now, his priority remains fighting top tier opponents.
What happened there is other people who never watch boxing, or they don't know anything about boxing, they want to watch Jake Paul because he's coming from he bring fans from other world, right? Yeah. That's good because everybody enjoy it.
Would you ever entertain that idea when you're done?
Maybe.
While Jake Paul is directing his frustration at Canelo and Turki Alalshik, another fighter is taking aim at his own promoter. Edgar Berlanga has publicly called out Eddie Hearn, blaming him for failing to secure a fight against IBF super middleweight champion William Scull. According to Berlanga, this matchup could have fast-tracked a rematch with Canelo in September, making Hearn's decision a major setback.
I could have had the Scull fight. Nobody knew that. I had Scull in my DM. Me and him was talking. He was telling me send the contract. He made a video, send me the contract, send a contract. He wanted, I think, 1.5 or something. Pay that. We pay that. If you're a good businessman, you would have do the. If Eddie Hearns really fucked with me, he would have said, how much you want? 1.5? I'm gonna make this on pay that.
Do you think?
Let's because as soon as I got the belt, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna beat him. That Scull was easy work. I was gonna beat that guy. You get what I'm saying? With the rehydration, I was gonna do all that shit. Rehydration, close, all of that bullshit. I was gonna do it.
In fact, Berlanga believes the fight with Scull was close to being finalized. According to him, he and Scull had direct discussions, with Scull expressing interest and naming his price. However, Berlanga argues that if Eddie Hearn had truly supported him, Dazn would have met Skull's demands. In his view, winning the IBF title would have forced Canelo to fight him next, setting up a massive showdown.
Because I knew I was gonna beat him. I get the IBF world. I'm an IBF world titleist. I got the title. Now Canelo gotta come, cause he want that undisputed. And look, now he's fighting Scull and May.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It's about this, bro. And if the promoter sees it and really fucks with you, he would have made that happen. Cause I would have beat the shit out of him. I would have got my title. Right?
Yeah.
Canelo would have probably fought somebody else, and then me and him would have been probably headlining in September for undisputed. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what he wants. Canelo wanted to be two-time undisputed. You know what I'm saying? But that's what happens when you have a guy, and you have these promoters thinking that they're the boss, you know what I'm saying, that want to run a fighter and think that it's not happening no more.
Frustrated with how things played out, Berlanga didn't hold back his disappointment. He feels that being tied to a promoter has limited his ability to make fights happen. In his words, Scull was ready to go, knowing it would be a financially rewarding fight. Now, with his time at Matchroom Boxing coming to an end, he is open to offers, calling on networks and promotions to reach out and make the right fights happen.
You know what I'm saying? Shit like this happened now that we could have fought Scull. Me being by myself or me being with a business partner, not a nigga that think he's my boss, we would have made the fight happen.
But don't Eddie always, that's like something he preaches a lot. Like he'll say, I've seen him say it right next to you. He's the boss, you know, whatever he wants.
Yeah, but it's more, you could talk about it and then it's actually doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If you really about that, if you really fuck with me, you would have made that shit happen, bro. You would have made that shit happen like this. Yo, give me that. Take that. Berlanga, oh, he wants to fight. He wanted to fight Scull. He wanted to fight. He didn't know he was gonna fight Canelo. You know, Canelo's a boss right now. Canelo could do whatever the fuck he want. He could fight a guy from Walmart and make millions, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But with me, Scull wanted it because he knew he was gonna make the bag, you know?
With all these controversies surrounding Canelo's upcoming fight, criticism continues to mount from different angles. His decision to bypass Jake Paul and David Benavidez, his choice to fight William Scull, and the unusual fight timing have all fueled debate. Fans have been particularly vocal about the 6 a.m. start time, questioning whether such scheduling helps or hurts the sport. With so much frustration surrounding this event, the question remains, do fans actually support this fight, or will they make their disappointment known on fight night? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.